The Ainu people, an indigenous group of northern Japan, have long remained an enigma in the story of human migration and genetics. Unlike the majority of East Asians, the Ainu possess strikingly different physical features: lighter skin, wavy hair, and deep-set eyes, raising an essential question: where did they come from? For centuries, theories ranged from mythological origins to connections with ancient Siberian tribes, but today, cutting-edge genetic research is finally uncovering the truth. By analyzing ancient DNA, scientists are piecing together a story far older and more complex than previously imagined. The genetic roots of the Ainu trace back to the Jomon people, the first known inhabitants of the Japanese archipelago. The Jomon, a hunter-gatherer civilization, thrived for nearly 14,000 years, leaving behind distinct pottery and skeletal remains that have provided valuable genetic clues. Early studies suggested that the Ainu were direct descendants of the Jomon, isolated from later migrations. However, new genome-wide research reveals a more intricate narrative, one that includes waves of migration, intermingling with Northeast Siberians, and even connections to Native Americans. One of the most fascinating discoveries comes from mitochondrial DNA analysis, showing that while the Ainu retain significant Jomon ancestry, they also carry genetic markers from the Okhotsk people, a seafaring civilization that once inhabited Sakhalin and the Kuril Islands. This explains why Ainu genetic diversity differs significantly from that of the mainland Japanese, who possess a much stronger genetic influence from the Yayoi farmers who migrated from continental Asia around 3,000 years ago. The dual-structure model of Japanese ancestry, which once proposed a simple split between the Jomon and Yayoi, is now being challenged by a more nuanced, triple-structure model, incorporating the genetic contributions of the Okhotsk culture. Interestingly, certain genetic variants found in the Ainu, such as those associated with hair and tooth morphology, set them apart from both the mainland Japanese and other East Asian populations. One such gene, EDAR, which influences straight hair and shovel-shaped incisors, is notably different in Ainu genomes, suggesting a distinct evolutionary path shaped by their environment and history. Another significant discovery is the presence of a genetic affinity between the Ainu and Northeast Siberians, including the Chukchi and Idleman people, raising the possibility of ancient migration routes that link Japan to the broader Arctic region. The genetic puzzle of the Ainu also extends beyond Japan. Some studies indicate a weak but notable connection between the Ainu and certain Native American groups. This has led some researchers to theorize that a common ancestral population once existed, migrating from Northeast Asia into both Japan and the Americas thousands of years ago. If true, it would mean the Ainu share a deep ancestral lineage with the first peoples of the Americas, an extraordinary link bridging continents and cultures. Despite their genetic uniqueness, the Ainu have faced centuries of assimilation policies that nearly erased their identity. Today, efforts are being made to preserve Ainu heritage, language, and traditions. With modern genetic technology illuminating their past, there is renewed interest in understanding how their ancient lineage contributes to the broader human story. The Jomon people, the ancient hunter-gatherers of Japan, have long been regarded as the foundation of the Ainu genetic legacy. However, recent studies suggest their story is far more intricate than previously assumed. For thousands of years, the Jomon thrived in the Japanese archipelago, developing a unique way of life, distinct from the agrarian societies that would later dominate the region. But what if their genetic legacy extends far beyond the Ainu? New findings indicate that while the Ainu carry the highest proportion of Jomon ancestry, they are not the only inheritors of this ancient lineage. Genetic analysis shows that the Ryukyuan people of Okinawa also possess significant Jomon DNA, challenging the idea that the Ainu alone are the direct descendants. This means the Jomon influence shaped multiple groups across Japan, albeit in varying degrees. The presence of Jomon genetic markers in mainland Japanese further complicates the narrative, suggesting that the intermixing of populations began earlier and more extensively than once believed. One of the most striking revelations about the Jomon people is their genetic distinctiveness from other East Asians. Unlike the later Yayoi migrants, who carried strong genetic ties to present-day Chinese and Koreans, the Jomon exhibit closer connections to ancient Siberian populations. This genetic signature is especially pronounced in the Ainu, reinforcing their status as a unique branch within East Asian diversity. However, traces of this lineage have been detected in unexpected places, suggesting that the Jomon may have been part of a larger, interconnected network of prehistoric peoples spanning Northeast Asia. Recent genome-wide studies have uncovered fascinating details about Jomon adaptations. One particular discovery involves their metabolism, with evidence suggesting that Jomon individuals possess genetic variants suited for a diet rich in seafood. This aligns with archaeological evidence showing their reliance on marine resources, from deep-sea fishing to the harvesting of shellfish. These adaptations likely played a crucial role in shaping the genetic traits seen in the Ainu today, particularly in their lipid metabolism and cholesterol regulation. Another remarkable finding is the Jomon's resistance to certain environmental stresses. Studies of ancient DNA reveal genetic adaptations related to cold tolerance, which could explain why the Ainu, who inherited much of their genetic legacy, were able to thrive in the frigid landscapes of Hokkaido for centuries. These genetic traits also set them apart from other East Asians, further solidifying the Jomon's distinct evolutionary trajectory. But perhaps the most compelling mystery is the Jomon's eventual decline as a dominant population. For thousands of years, they lived in relative isolation, yet their genetic signature did not vanish. Instead, it was absorbed and reshaped through centuries of interbreeding, leaving a lasting imprint on modern Japanese populations. The Ainu, with their high proportion of Jomon DNA, serve as a living testament to this ancient legacy, preserving genetic markers that have otherwise faded in other groups. As more discoveries emerge, the Jomon story continues to evolve. Their genetic influence extends beyond just the Ainu, weaving into the broader fabric of Japan's ancestry. What was once considered a simple, linear history is now recognized as a dynamic, multi-layered narrative, one that challenges long-standing assumptions about Japan's ancient past. For centuries, the Ainu have been viewed as an isolated indigenous group, distinct from their East Asian neighbors. However, genetic research has revealed an unexpected layer to their story, one that connects them to populations across Siberia and even the Americas. Unlike the later Yayoi migrants, whose genetic roots trace back to mainland East Asia, the Ainu carry markers that link them to the ancient peoples of the Amur River Basin, Kamchatka, and beyond. This raises an intriguing question. Could the ancestors of the Ainu have once been part of a broader migration network stretching across northern Eurasia? One of the most surprising discoveries is the genetic affinity between the Ainu and certain Native American groups. While the connection is distant, studies show that both populations share ancestral lineages that likely originated in Siberia before diverging thousands of years ago. This suggests that some of the same ancient groups who contributed to the formation of the Ainu may have also played a role in the initial peopling of the Americas. Such findings challenge traditional migration models, hinting at a more complex web of prehistoric movement than previously imagined. Another key genetic link exists between the Ainu and Northeast Siberians, particularly the Idolmen and Chukchi. These indigenous Siberian groups, like the Ainu, have retained genetic signatures that differ from other East Asian populations. This suggests a shared ancestry dating back to an era when hunter-gatherer communities moved freely across the vast northern landscapes, long before the rise of modern national borders. Despite geographic separation, these groups exhibit overlapping traits, such as metabolic adaptations to cold environments and genetic markers associated with high-fat diets, likely inherited from common ancestors. Even within Japan, the Ainu's genetic legacy is not as isolated as once believed. While they remain distinct from the mainland Japanese, traces of Ainu-related ancestry have been detected in the Tohoku region, where the historical Emishire people once lived. This suggests that interactions between the Ainu and neighboring groups may have been more frequent than historical records imply. Over centuries, small but significant genetic exchanges may have taken place, shaping the genetic landscape of northern Japan in ways that are only now coming to light. The genetic diversity found in the Ainu also provides insights into how ancient populations adapted to their environments. Certain genetic variants linked to lipid metabolism, skin pigmentation, and immune response are far more prevalent among the Ainu than in other East Asians. These variations reflect thousands of years of adaptation to specific ecological pressures, from the harsh winters of Hokkaido to a diet rich in marine resources. Such genetic signatures offer a glimpse into the survival strategies of ancient northern peoples, revealing the lasting impact of environmental selection on human evolution. As scientific tools continue to refine our understanding of human migration, the Ainu's genetic story grows more intricate. Their ancestry, once thought to be a simple continuation of the Jomon people, is now recognized as part of a vast and interconnected network of northern populations. From Siberia to the Americas, genetic links point to a deeper and more complex history, one that challenges old assumptions and expands our understanding of human movement across prehistoric landscapes. The Ainu's genetic uniqueness is not just a relic of the past. It continues to shape their distinct physical traits in ways that set them apart from their East Asian neighbors. While the Japanese population predominantly carries genetic markers associated with traits like straight black hair, low facial projection, and high levels of EDR-related features, the Ainu exhibit a dramatically different profile. Their thick, wavy hair, prominent facial structure, and lighter skin pigmentation indicate a separate evolutionary path, influenced by their ancient Jomon ancestry and possible genetic exchanges with Siberian populations. One of the most striking differences lies in hair texture. Unlike the straight, coarse hair commonly found in East Asia, the Ainu often have thick, wavy, or even curly hair. Genetic analysis suggests that this trait may have been inherited from their Jomon ancestors, who carried unique variations in genes affecting hair morphology. The absence of key mutations in the EDR gene, which contribute to the typical East Asian hair type, further highlights this divergence. This feature is not just cosmetic. It likely played a role in adapting to Hokkaido's cold, humid climate, where thicker hair could provide better insulation. Facial structure is another distinguishing factor. The Ainu tend to have deeper set eyes, broader noses, and more prominent brow ridges compared to their East Asian counterparts. These traits align more closely with certain Siberian and Arctic populations, suggesting a shared genetic heritage that predates the migration of agricultural societies into Japan. This craniofacial variation may be linked to adaptations for extreme environments, where specific facial proportions could have helped regulate temperature and moisture loss in cold conditions. Eye shape and pigmentation also show notable differences. While the epicanthic fold is a dominant feature among East Asians, it is less pronounced or even absent in many Ainu individuals. Additionally, their eye color varies more widely, sometimes appearing lighter than that of their Japanese neighbors. This could be the result of genetic diversity introduced by their deep ancestral connections to northern Eurasian populations. Beyond facial features, metabolic adaptations provide further evidence of genetic divergence. The Ainu carry genetic markers associated with efficient fat metabolism, which may have been crucial for survival in their traditional hunter-gatherer lifestyle. This aligns with the diets of other northern populations, such as the Inuit, who rely on high-fat marine diets. Ainu genetic adaptations to lipid metabolism distinguish them not only from the Japanese, but also from other East Asian groups, reinforcing their long-standing dependence on seafood and game. These unique genetic traits serve as living proof of the Ainu's ancient origins and distinct evolutionary history. While external influences and gradual assimilation have altered aspects of their cultural identity, their biological heritage remains deeply rooted in their past. As more genetic research sheds light on these differences, it becomes increasingly clear that the Ainu are not just an isolated indigenous group, but the last living link to a prehistoric lineage that once thrived across the Japanese archipelago. The Ainu people have long been recognized as one of the most genetically distinct populations in East Asia, and their DNA holds valuable insights into ancient human migration and adaptation. Unlike the majority of East Asians, who share a strong genetic link to the agricultural societies that expanded from the Chinese mainland, the Ainu retain a higher proportion of Jomon ancestry. This deep genetic heritage places them closer to prehistoric hunter-gatherer populations that once roamed across the Japanese archipelago thousands of years ago. One of the most revealing aspects of Ainu genetics is their mitochondrial DNA, mtDNA, which is passed down exclusively through the maternal line. Studies have shown that the Ainu share a significant portion of their mtDNA with the ancient Jomon people, particularly haplogroups N9b and M7a. These haplogroups are rare among modern East Asians, but are found at higher frequencies in populations with known Jomon ancestry. This suggests that, despite centuries of interaction with neighboring groups, the Ainu have preserved maternal genetic markers that date back to the earliest inhabitants of Japan. On the paternal side, Y chromosome DNA tells a similar story. The Ainu have a remarkably high frequency of haplogroup D1b, a lineage that is believed to have arrived in Japan over 30,000 years ago. This haplogroup is virtually absent in most of East Asia, but is found at significant levels in both the Ainu and the Ryukyuans, indicating a shared ancient ancestry that diverged from other populations before the Yayoi migration reshaped Japan's genetic landscape. Interestingly, a related haplogroup, D1a, is found in Tibetans, raising intriguing questions about the possibility of ancient migrations between the Japanese archipelago and the highlands of Central Asia. Genome-wide studies further reinforce the Ainu's genetic distinctiveness. Unlike the mainland Japanese, whose DNA is a mixture of Jomon and Yayoi components, the Ainu show much lower levels of genetic input from continental East Asian groups such as Han Chinese and Koreans. This is especially evident in regions of the genome linked to immunity, metabolism, and physical traits, where Ainu genetic markers differ sharply from those of their neighbors. Some of these unique variations may be the result of natural selection, favoring adaptations suited to their cold, forested environment and traditional hunter-gatherer lifestyle. Despite their genetic uniqueness, the Ainu have not remained entirely isolated. Historical interactions with other East Asian populations, particularly during the later periods of trade and cultural exchange, have introduced limited genetic mixing. However, the overall structure of the Ainu genome remains distinct, reflecting a long period of relative isolation and a deep ancestral connection to the Jomon people. Advances in ancient DNA analysis are now allowing researchers to compare modern Ainu genomes with those of prehistoric individuals, helping to reconstruct the complex web of migrations and interactions that shaped Japan's population history. The study of Ainu genetics is not just an academic pursuit. It has real implications for understanding the diversity of human history. By analyzing their unique genetic markers, scientists can piece together the movements of ancient peoples, uncover the biological adaptations that helped them survive, and challenge long-held assumptions about Japan's past. As more discoveries emerge, the Ainu continue to stand as a living link to a prehistoric world, offering a rare glimpse into the genetic legacy of Japan's earliest inhabitants. The genetic heritage of the Ainu is not just a story of ancestry, but also one of adaptation, an evolutionary blueprint shaped by the challenges of their environment. For thousands of years, the Ainu thrived in the northernmost regions of Japan, where frigid winters, dense forests, and a diet reliant on hunting and fishing played a defining role in their biological evolution. These conditions left a distinct mark on their genetic profile, influencing everything from metabolism to immune responses. One of the most striking genetic adaptations in the Ainu involves cold resistance. Unlike populations from warmer regions, the Ainu exhibit genetic markers associated with enhanced thermoregulation, traits that help conserve body heat in cold climates. Variants in genes related to fat metabolism, such as UCP1, which influences brown fat activity, suggest that their ancestors developed an efficient way to generate and retain heat. This trait is also seen in other northern populations, like the Inuit and certain Siberian groups, hinting at parallel evolutionary pressures. Another key area of adaptation is diet. As a people who relied heavily on marine and terrestrial resources, the Ainu developed genetic traits that optimize their ability to process high-protein, high-fat diets. Their genetic markers indicate a predisposition for enhanced lipid metabolism, allowing them to efficiently convert animal fats into energy. Additionally, their historically low reliance on agriculture means they have lower frequencies of genes associated with starch digestion compared to mainland Japanese, whose ancestors transitioned to rice-based farming thousands of years ago. This dietary adaptation underscores a fundamental difference between populations shaped by agriculture and those sustained by hunting and foraging. Immunity is another area where Ainu genetics stand out. Living in a region with exposure to various pathogens, their immune system evolved to handle specific threats. Some of their immune-related genetic markers resemble those found in Siberian and Arctic populations, suggesting an ancestral connection to groups that migrated through northern Eurasia. These adaptations would have been essential for survival, especially given their exposure to zoonotic diseases from hunting and their interactions with neighboring groups over the centuries. Physical traits also reflect their evolutionary history. The Ainu's distinct facial structure, including broader noses and deep-set eyes, may have developed in response to cold weather, as similar features are observed in other populations adapted to harsh climates. Genetic studies have identified differences in genes like EDR, which influence hair thickness and tooth morphology, distinguishing the Ainu from their East Asian neighbors. These features, once considered mere aesthetic variations, are now recognized as crucial evolutionary adaptations that provided tangible survival benefits. The genetic legacy of the Ainu tells a powerful story of human resilience. Their adaptations are testament to the deep connection between environment and biology, revealing how populations evolved to meet the demands of their surroundings. Studying their genetic traits not only enriches our understanding of human evolution, but also highlights the diversity of survival strategies employed by ancient peoples. As science continues to unlock more secrets hidden in our DNA, the Ainu remain a fascinating case study in how genetics, culture, and environment intertwine to shape human history. The modern Ainu people carry a legacy shaped by centuries of cultural evolution and genetic inheritance. While their historical roots are deeply tied to the Jomon people, their genetic profile today reflects a complex journey of interactions, adaptations, and resilience. But what does modern genetic research reveal about the Ainu today? How much of their ancient lineage remains intact, and how have historical events influenced their genetic makeup? Genome-wide studies have shown that the Ainu remain one of the most distinct populations in East Asia. Unlike the mainland Japanese, who carry significant genetic influence from the Yayoi people of continental Asia, the Ainu retain a much higher proportion of Jomon ancestry. However, modern Ainu are not an untouched relic of the past. Historical interactions, migrations, and cultural shifts have introduced new genetic components over time. While they still possess a unique genetic identity, traces of admixture with neighboring populations, including the mainland Japanese, are present in their genome. One of the most notable genetic characteristics of the modern Ainu is their close relationship with the Ryukyuan people of Okinawa, despite the vast geographical distance between them. Studies show that both groups share a significant proportion of Jomon DNA, more so than the mainland Japanese. This connection highlights an important aspect of Japan's genetic history. Before the large-scale migrations of the Yayoi, the Jomon lineage was widespread across the archipelago. The Ainu and Ryukyuans, in different ways, preserved more of this ancestry than their counterparts on Honshu, Kyushu, and Shikoku. However, the Ainu of today are not genetically identical to their ancestors from centuries ago. The effects of historical assimilation policies, intermarriage, and migration have influenced their gene pool. With the Japanese government's efforts to integrate the Ainu into mainstream society during the Meiji era, many Ainu individuals intermarried with mainland Japanese, leading to a gradual dilution of genetic markers unique to their heritage. This means that while some Ainu today still carry predominantly Jomon genetic signatures, others exhibit varying degrees of admixture with Japanese and even Siberian populations. Another crucial factor in understanding the modern Ainu genetic landscape is the impact of population decline. Over centuries, the Ainu faced social and political pressures that significantly reduced their numbers. A smaller population size leads to genetic drift, a phenomenon where certain genetic traits become more pronounced while others disappear. This can result in the loss of genetic diversity, making the modern Ainu genome slightly different from what it may have been in earlier centuries. Despite these changes, modern Ainu communities are actively working to preserve their cultural and genetic identity. Advances in genetic research allow for deeper insights into their ancestry, helping to reconstruct their past and highlight their distinctiveness within the broader East Asian genetic landscape. The study of modern Ainu DNA is not just about history. It also plays a vital role in understanding genetic adaptation, human migration, and the interconnectedness of ancient populations. As more genetic data becomes available, The story of the Ainu continues to evolve. Their DNA carries echoes of an ancient past, but it also reflects the lived experiences of generations who adapted, merged, and persevered. The Ainu people today are a living testament to a heritage that has withstood the test of time, offering a unique window into the deep and complex history of the Japanese archipelago.